And here we are. Hopefully you can see me. You can hear me. It is Wednesday, June 26th. I should know that. What are you going to do? All right, everybody, here we are. Weekly live stream on the C47's channel. Let me make sure I turn this thing off because I don't want it beeping at me during the hour. Thaddeus, good to see you. If anybody else is around, let me know. And also, if you wouldn't mind, let me know that you can see and hear me correctly. Slightly different setup right now than I normally use. So the audio is being patched a little bit differently. It seems like it's all working based on the meters and everything else, but I would love to hear, at least from you, Thaddeus, a thumbs up if you can hear me properly. Marshall, good to have you here. All loud and clear. That's all I needed, and we jump right into it. A little crazy over here in the barn, getting ready to head out for some work, going down to Burbank, really Los Angeles. It's not just going to be in Burbank, and working on the new Steadicam Access videos. So they have a new version of Steadicam. I did a short episode when I was down there for Cinegear that talks a little bit about the whole system, and I'm going to go down there and help them create some content to basically introduce the system. I'm not going to be the one on camera. I'm going to be the one behind camera, and also sort of like a high level getting started. So one is a little bit more, we'll say, aspirational in tone, more of sort of a launch. Here's what's included. Here's the reason it's exciting. And then that would be the introduction to Steadicam Access. And then the second video is going to be getting started with Steadicam Access. And there's only so much that's going to be able to be covered in that short period of time. But then I'm anticipating that between the manual and other content that's created in the future, there'll be more stuff. So what's going on with everybody else? Love to hear from everybody. And this is, of course, the weekly live stream. It's a little bit different than Camera Flask from the standpoint that it's just really a chance for you to start asking questions about pre-production, production, equipment, things related to video production and filmmaking. And that's the whole point. So if you start jumping in and you want to ask about episodes of the Daily Drop, you want to talk about an upcoming project that you have, you want to talk about equipment, what I would do is put an at the C47 at the beginning of your comment, and then I can address that and we can get into it. But no problem, Marshall. Totally understood. So, housekeeping wise, I just want to remind everybody that there's still a couple of days left in the monthly challenge, the B&H sponsored challenge on the channel. This is another photo challenge, and all of the entries have to be sent in by no later than end of day, June 30th. So you have essentially through the weekend. So you have another weekend to do it. And I have 2 episodes on the channel about the challenge. And there you go. Scooby-Doo background. It could be. Yeah, where's Shaggy? I don't know. I made it a little bit darker. I kind of felt like it was a little bright before. You can see here's the previous one. Maybe that's better, maybe it's worse. I don't know. Um, we can go with any of these right now and just stay with them. I'm just in a thing right now where I'm mucking about and just kind of trying things. And the real trick is when you're using generative AI, it's photorealism, and for me, that's really what I want. So there's a lot more dialing in here that needs to be done, but it's just part of the process. And because I do a daily series, you're going to see it. I'm going to just keep going with it. Thaddeus says, really like your thoughts about two camera production for educational videos. When you were looking off screen, I felt like you suddenly disconnected from the audience. Oh, I thought you had a question. Thank you for that, Thaddeus. Yeah, it is a pet peeve of mine, and you see it a lot. Maybe not as much as holding a lavalier microphone as if it was a handheld microphone, but it's still a thing to see people addressing to camera and then getting to that other camera angle, usually on a tighter shot, and the person is looking slightly off. It's almost worse when you put the two cameras right together because it feels almost like the person is addressing that second camera, but they're sort of looking just slightly off, and it just almost is less connected than if they were sort of off, camera left or camera right even more. But thanks, I appreciate that. Um, yeah. So this week I've got what, two more episodes I need to shoot. I'll shoot one of them right after the live stream, and then tomorrow I'll shoot Friday's episode, and then probably at least Monday and Tuesdays. Maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because when I get back later on Monday, which means I'll have to have Monday's episode ready and Tuesdays at least. And Tuesday afternoon, I'll probably do my next one or shoot some content if I have time, which is probably not going to be the case while I'm down there. The psychoticness of it is that I'm going to land in Burbank at around noon. I go right over to Tiffin, and it's the entire afternoon to set up for the Saturday part of this project, which is going to be a high-end Steadicam op who's going to be delivering the content about the new Steadicam Axis. Hasn't come to market yet. It's coming to market late summer, early fall, but this content needs to get created. And then after setup is done on Friday, that's a two-part setup. One is for the video content. The second is for stills. So I'm going to set up a whole different setup where basically, which just reminded me of something. I need to bring something else with me, which I hopefully won't forget. Hold on, I'm going to make a note. This is what it's like when you're about to. It's something I took out of my case, and I think I'm going to add. So I just need to remember. It's a mini Mathellini clamp and a mini grip head. So I'll just make sure that that goes back in because I'm thinking about that photography setup. And what I'm going to do is fly a 4x4 frame with magic cloth. I'll push the key light through that, and then we'll have white seamless paper. So we really reduce the amount of shadows. So just think about that 4x4 frame being not quite tabled, which would be like this to the ground, like a table, but on a slight angle and then up and above. So if you think here's camera, then we're going to have the modifier above it, and then there'll be seamless paper here, and then we'll lay out and take photographs of the vest, of the Steadicam arm, and also, of course, of the sled, which is sort of the heart of the whole system, which will include the Volt technology and stuff that's in there. All right. In order for these live streams to mean something to you fine people of the world, you have to ask questions. You have to put comments up there and get a conversation going, and that's kind of what it's all about. So if you're here and you are a regular, thank you for coming. If you have particular questions that you want to start to get into, or you just want to start a topic to discuss, again, and at the C47, and then I can start going down that road. I always say that these live streams are not a one-way street. So the point is not for me to just kind of just keep coming up with stuff. We really benefit the most. I do, and I hope you do, when questions start to come up. So when you start to ask about basically things that you're trying to figure out or you're trying to solve related to production. So anything that you want to get going on related to that would be fantastic. just throw something up there in the chat. I'm looking. I see the comments when they're posted. The last one was Thaddeus's a while ago. So let's do it. Just while I'm waiting for that to happen, I mentioned it in a couple of episodes this week, or at least one of them. This is a pretty rudimentary setup that I have right now using Ecamm Live. So I'm actually not going through the A10 Mini Pro. I'm just going straight from camera to a Camlink 4K. Let's see if you remember these things right here. This is the HD version of it, and then I have a 4K version of it. So I'm outputting out of the FX30 in UHD 4K, so 3840 by 2160. That's coming into the 4K version of this, which is essentially just allowing me to then bring that signal in, both picture and sound. And then I am using Ecamm Live, which in this situation is being used just for the live stream. And that's what the keying is going through. So Ecamm Live is kind of doing all of the work there. So you'll see here's the green screen, not perfectly lit, could definitely be slightly better lit, but good enough for government work and clean enough when I pull a key for what we're doing here. One huge feature that I would love to have in every application that has to do with keying, plug in whatever it is that is being used, is something called light wrap. So if you use Keylight, or if I use the keyer inside of Final Cut Pro, most keyers will have something called light wrap, which will take your background plate and will essentially wrap some of that light depending on how strongly you want it to do it, or not. And that sells the person being in that environment more. So if you could see, like you see up here, and you see around sort of my shoulder area where we have all of this haze and this light and stuff, if we had light wrap, then what would happen is those lighter areas would wrap around my arms and my head and things like that. And it would just feel kind of more, not like the kicker light. Sorry, I'm I'm backwards here. Um, but it would just sort of blend your foreground subject into the background more. So there you go. David says, I'll be helping to build a mausoleum set for an Elvira-like YouTube show, which I'll be the DP for. Wow. Okay. That sounds like something. And it sounds like a challenge. Is that something you're doing locally? How are you building it? Is it going to be on a set? What's kind of the idea behind that? Love to hear a little bit more about it. So yeah, so rudimentary green screen capabilities. I can basically key either green or blue, and then I can dial in the fade level, which essentially is the keying part of it, in terms of, just like choking the mat a little bit, more or less. I'll just show you. So here, there it is. And then the key is coming in, and you can start to see that there. And then if I go too far the other way, then that's what happens. There's a middle ground there. In fact, let me just bring this back over here so I get my numbers to where they need to be ish. Yeah, good enough for television. I'll take that ish. Yeah, whatever. We'll leave that. And then there are some other options in here, but again, very rudimentary, transparent. If I activate that, essentially you're just seeing what that key looks like without the green screen or the back plate, and then I can blur the background. So right now that's what it looks like, not blurred, and then here it is blurred, and then once it's blurred you can blur it very little or a lot depending on how much you want that background to go out of focus. I'm kind of doing it somewhat subtly over here, and then the other thing that I'm doing, which is a little bit different than yesterday, is yesterday's episode. Technically, I guess it's today's episode. I had the night fog density of 1, and that created a little bit of atmosphere. I'm using a half here instead of a 1. So it's a little more subtle in terms of that haze. It's going to be a little bit sharper in the eyes and all of that stuff. All right, kids. So we are 15 minutes in, and I have not had one question. Let's get a question going here. That's the whole point of the live stream. We don't have to go for the whole hour. So depending on sort of how it goes, I'm happy to be here for the whole hour. But if we find that there are no topics to go over today, which I find kind of hard to believe, but if there are none, then we'll talk a little bit for a little while, and then we can wrap it up. But again, it really only goes when you start to bring up topics and do that. So here we go. Thaddeus coming in. Do you think a little fog in the foreground would help sell this setup? I do. The filters, if I went to a night fog 1, we would feel it a little bit more. In fact, I'm inclined to walk over and just swap it out so we can see that. But using a little hazer would definitely help sell that a little bit more, but it can go overboard. The nice thing about doing that is that it would be a real haze, but the bad thing to a degree is, we have a keyed background here and there's no movement happening. So it may actually go in the other direction, not in a good way, because especially with this background where we see something like I would expect to see this moving, right? Um, and this is generative AI. So I was using Dolly to create it. Other sets may not feel that way, depending on what it is that you're bringing in and what you're doing. But obviously, here, the difference is if I'm going to have this slash of light coming in through all of these, openings, these windows, then I really need to take this side of my face and I need to do something related to that. So, yeah, it just kind of depends. Let me go back to the original. I'm going to go pop in the single the density of 1 on this, and we'll see how that feels. And I'll be right back. And then, David, you have posted something which I'll read, and we'll go over that in a sec. I'll be right back. All right, I'm still here. Mic is still open. It's going to go dark for a second. That's just because I'm over by the teleprompter, and I'm going to go ahead and put this night fog density of 1 on the camera. Okay, we have done that. And let's clear frame. And I'm walking in. And there you go. So that's a little bit stronger than the previous one. When you start getting past, at least with the night fogs, a density of 1, it starts to become considerably harder to not run into problems with soft focus on the eyes. I find that this strength on this particular filter tends to be a little bit strong. Now, I have other filters from Tiffin like smoke and stuff like that. I could go find a smoke filter if you want to see it, and we can kind of take a look at that. David says we will be building the set in an old single wide trailer on my property. This will be the 3rd session of the show. I wasn't involved in the previous sessions. 2 hosts and a puppet. Ooh, sounds creepy. All right. Brandon, you're just looking at the mess I'm in right now, which is not the mess you're in the heat down in Arizona, but just mucking about, kind of starting the real steps towards this virtual production stuff for a small to no crew. So this is just straight green screen, nothing fancy, just keying a background, all that fun stuff. But let me go get the smoke filter and let's see if I can find that. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves, kids. I'm grabbing stuff. Let's see what I got. Doing all kinds of filter tests right now with yeah, but did you love that drive to Oregon, Brandon? All right. Oh my goodness, I got all kinds of stuff here, but not all of these have anything to do with what I'm doing. Black Fog 1, which I had the other day, which is more subtle than Night Fog for sure. So you'd have to go to much stronger strengths. I have a Smoke 1 and a Smoke 2. I think we should try Smoke. That's with a Q. Smoque, Smoke with a density of 1. Maybe we can check that out and see how it feels compared to Night Fog with a density of 1. So let me just see if there's anything else here. I'm going to keep the other Smoke 2. And is there anything else that I want to keep here that we might want to check out? I have a Night Fog 2. Yeah, let's do that. We'll do Smoke 1, Smoke 2. I've got a Night Fog 2. We'll start with that because that's a stronger strength. And yeah, don't forget the contest is happening. All right, let me put these off to the side. So again, I just want to reiterate, we started the episode with a Night Fog half density. That's right here. We're going to now move, now we're on a Night Fog with a density of 1. And we are going to now move on to a Night Fog density 2. This is where I kind of feel like we step into the maybe using it for just atmosphere. But if you have talent who are in the frame, this is where it's going to start to get a little bit softer and a little less defined in and around the eyes. So I'll be right back. I'm going to swap that out. Let's get another question up here. Let's go. Come on, kids. All right. Night Fog 1. And now we are swapping that out for Night Fog 2. Hopefully you can hear me. I do have a loud voice, so my guess is growing up in New York may be beneficial at this point in time. Okay, coming back into frame. And here we are with Night Fog. And then I see, look, you can see the microphone just a little bit over there. So this is Night Fog 2, and you can start to feel now more atmosphere. I'm starting to go quite hazy, and that's kind of the deal. So I have not had any issues with my Smoke Genie activate button having problems, David, but I would definitely reach out. If you have a problem, let me know. I can reach out to Mickey a little bit and see if we can expedite that. But go through your own avenue first. Okay, so that's Night Fog. I think we're pretty good on that. Any comments, any feelings about this? I do feel like it's a little too strong. I'm also just going to punch in ever so slightly. Yes, the edges of my shirt look a little wonky. And remember that it's also, we're keying here. So we've got that on top of everything else in terms of that matte being created. So I feel personally that this is too strong. What we're going to do now is we're going to try Smoke 1 and Smoke 2. So let's see how that feels. I'll be right back. And, yep. A Night Fog 2 has been removed. We're now going Smoke 1. I haven't looked at this one in a long time. I know Caleb's a big fan of the smoke filters. Hopefully you can hear me in the distance over there. Let me know if you can't. Okay, this is definitely a lot cleaner from what I can see over here. I'm not looking at it on the best monitor, but this is Smoke 1. So much more subtle, especially than Night Fog 2. But what I'd like to do now is go over to Smoke 2 and see how that feels. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So I will be right back. Any feelings on this one? Okay. I'll be right back. Okie dokie. Almost. Getting there. Okay, kids, this is Smoke 2. Also more subtle than Night Fog 2, for sure, in my opinion. But any feelings that anybody has? I'm happy to go back to Night Fog 1 compared to this, but even that, I think, has more atmosphere in terms of haze than the smoke filter. Any feelings? Okay. Well, let's hear the comments and let's get some more questions going because we're at about halfway through. Again, reminder, the challenge contest is going on through end of day, June 30th. Get your photos in. Already gotten some stuff in the mailbox, the inbox for that, and there are 3 prizes. Yes, shirt edge isn't as wonky and definitely less haze, though there's a little bit of atmosphere there. In fact, I'm going to take this and just poke it over onto this side or over here. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely subtle, that smoke too. The night fogs to me are, the night fogs to me are, you know, they're the most atmospheric, the most intense. Sorry, I was reading David's comment. Yeah, I mean, the app is, when you say finicky, do you just mean it's unreliable? I'd like to hear about that, David. But the light is good. The little Luxley cello too. It's good to have in the kit. I'm bringing it with me on my trip to use as essentially a background light. So not to kick people, not as a, as a backlight, but as a background light. So it's essentially going to sit on the floor on a little tabletop tripod. I can show you right now, actually. And then that's going to uplight the background. Hold on. So it's already in the case. So essentially what I've done is I've just taken a little tabletop tripod, something that has a very low footprint. I've put a Manfrotto ball head on there so you can sort of see how that looks. I'm just trying to figure it might be easier to just show it to you on the green screen. Let's do it. Boom. There. So you can kind of see there is this tabletop tripod here. And then I've got the Luxley cello, and that will basically just sit on that ball head. So it just threads on the bottom. Fits just perfectly. With this is the Manfrotto 492. I've got a bunch of these. They're rock stars just because they're just so well made. They're not the cheapest ball heads in the world. I've talked about them in the past. I'm trying to talk and do this at the same time. What is going on with me? Hold on. I'll get this. It's also a little, this thing gets a little heavy with the barn doors. It's a lot easier to thread this when you don't have those there. So, yeah, there we go. See? So this effectively is going to sit over one of the legs, and then this will be on the ground. And then because I have the ball head here, what I can do is I can just adjust that to be the angle that I want it to be. And it's just resting over that back leg right here. And then I will put the barn doors on, and this will effectively become my background light. And this will allow me to control the spill a little bit, and I can still put the diffusion on here. And that's basically the setup that I'm going to use for the background light. And this can be USB-C powered, so I think it has an advantage. I wish the barn doors closed with the diffusion, but the reality is that that's just not going to happen. So that's the kind of setup there. Gotcha on the losing connection. Definitely let them know. I know that they listen to feedback. All right, hold on one second. All right. Um, let's see what Brandon has here. Fun times for us. We're absorbing a large room next to our little studio and building out a new large space with dedicated spots for film slash podcasts, etc. Old room will act as a control room. Got it. So when you do that, Brandon, are you going to have like a cutout? Will there be a door between the two rooms in a more traditional control room engineering space? What will the connection be? Do you have to go out in the hallway and then come in from a different place? Are you blown through the wall? Was there already an opening or a doorway there? Are you going to create, or is there already like some sort of window between the two rooms so you can see what's going on? Are you going to do a comm system? I'm interested to find out. All right, halfway point, 3:31, and you guys are pretty quiet today, I have to say. It's a little mellow. Not that that's a bad thing, but it's definitely a little bit mellow, and hearing from you on some questions would be great. How well's the glass? This is the green screen problem. Now, if you wanted to solve this problem, that's when you start to, look, when it's in front of my body, it's not a problem. But once it's over here, it can get a little funky. And watch what happens with a glass when you've got rudimentary controls when it comes to keying. I'm going to go ahead and change the fade level here like I did before. And you can start to see that even though I'm not where I need to be with the key, the glass is holding up pretty well. But then there's sort of that point where the glass is holding up pretty well, but it starts to disappear a little bit. And then you want to get to the place that you want for talent. Is that it? Maybe a notch or two more. Just give me a second. Right about there. And then you start to lose some of the glass. And that can be solved, but it's not as easy to do when you have rudimentary controls. So if you're using something like the Ultimat keyer that Blackmagic sells, Ultimat 12 really has a whole subset of things that can deal with and sell transparency very, very well. Marshall says, does Ecamm play well with the ATEM system? I believe the ATEM has some of the more advanced keying controls you were talking about. And I just mentioned that. Yes, I mean, Ecamm doesn't care where the signal's coming from. So technically, I could go into a Blackmagic product and I could key first and then just bring that in. The disadvantage is sort of the speed in which I can change backgrounds and stuff like that. And so if I'm relying upon the hardware, meaning the ATEM, I have to load those backgrounds in, and sure, I can, use the software or go to the controller and I can muck about with that. And the keys are pretty good. They're better with Ultimat, but the problem that I have with the ATEM products is, going outside of it just being a switcher, a lot of their products are IP address based. And unless you have a static, dedicated IP address, it can be problematic. And I'm up here on a hill in the country, and so I'm using a Wi-Fi hotspot. And even when I go through a little router, um, it drops the connection. And I've said to Blackmagic more than once, can we just bypass the IP address thing for people who are working as single operators or in very small crews? Because I don't want to be an IT department in order for a product to work. I'd like that ability because it's a very powerful thing to have when you are in a networked style environment. But if I'm just showing up with a laptop and an A10 Mini Pro or an Ultimat and one or two cameras, I'd really like to just be able to do that hardwired. I would like the app to allow me to control what I can do and also the hardware without having to lock into an IP address to do it. I don't think it's that hard, but who knows? David, what's up? Brandon says yes! Exclamation point. Putting in a door and a window probably will do a comm system. New space has large windows on 2 walls. Need to treat that somehow. Also being asked if I want. What's LVT? Why am I? What is LVT? I don't. I'm losing it here. Tell me, Brandon, now. Um, I'd lean towards low pile industrial carpet, easy to clean, like a commercial carpet, but will absorb sound and help mitigate problems with that. Uh, F no on the luxury vinyl tile. That is just a nightmare that you are waiting to have happen. So nope, don't do it. Shiny, reflective, both sound and picture. Um, I don't see the advantage. I mean, the only advantage is cleaning up. So I don't know what you're doing in this space, but if you're doing tabletop stuff and you're shooting with phantom cameras and there's lots of liquids and food and things like that flying around, then maybe it is tile, and then you cover it with rugs or something to help mitigate the problem. But I would say low pile commercial carpet, sort of in the gray, middle gray. That's what I'm talking about. When you say static, Marshall, what do you mean static on the vinyl? Um, I'd like to hear more about that. All right, things are starting to happen. People are talking a little bit. It's getting a little bit more lively here. But I have to say, everybody's low key. Hopefully, it's because all you're thinking about is how you're going to go out and shoot your photographs for the challenge. Because we got 3 prizes. And next week, at some point, I'm going to hopefully announce who they are. Probably on this live stream next Wednesday, if things go as planned. If you just arrived, I am standing in front of a green screen, and I'm using the smoke filter from Tiffin. I'm using it at a strength of 2 density. And if I switched right now to Night Fog 2, my goodness, it would be very different. Brandon, you can go vinyl for sure, but it really, first of all, keep it neutral, like a gray. And I don't know. You're going to have to cover it when you are shooting, probably, but it will have the advantage of being very easy to clean. Same thing with like a Pergo floor, Yeah. Oh, is there a risk of the vinyl holding static? I'm just flashing back to messing with hard vinyl sheets and getting some major shocks. Yeah, Marshall. That's a good thing to be thinking about. Yeah, I don't know about this vinyl tile. It's cheap, but yeah. New studios are a little bit different. First of all, if you've got a ring of fire and that's like lights everywhere all the way around, and then you have talent sitting at a desk and they're mic'd with lavaliers and it's more controlled, then that's a little bit different. You also have an entire crew of people, some of whom are in charge of just keeping that space clean. But my gut tells me that you're going to be in a small crew situation and everybody's going to have to do everything. So, but the reflections are going to be a problem. Quick Google search result: vinyl flooring is not anti-static, and anti-static floor generates little or no static electricity. ESD vinyl is made from static generating base materials. Damn, I feel like like we should get I don't know. I think some scientists are happening here. All right, what do we got? Come on, let's keep going here. This is why we do this. That was Brandon. You got something going here, and that was great. Anything sort of in that similar vein? Anything that you want to talk about, Brandon, or anybody else who's here that they're trying to figure out? And no problem at all, Thaddeus. I totally get it. And docs not only take forever to make, but it's just so much work across the boards. All right, what do we got? Let's get another question going here because I'm all out of ideas. Unless you have something you want to talk about, then I'm ready to go, 100 million percent. While I'm waiting for another question here, pretty much packed for my trip down to LA on Friday. I like to get my equipment ready at least a full day before I'm leaving. You should definitely not paint that room white, Brandon. Well, definitely is the wrong thing to say, but if I were building out a studio space, I would more than likely be painting those walls middle or neutral gray. So you could literally go and get an 18% gray card and bring that to the paint store, Benjamin Moore, Sherman Williams, Home Depot, Lowe's, and have them match neutral gray because you won't get any weird color casts because of that. And if it's in frame, especially, you can light that basically any color you want. You just have to know that unless you wash the entire gray, that it's gonna basically fall off into gray as the color. That's it. Um, so I would say neutral gray. If the walls are going to be in the shot, the other thing you can think about is doing something where you kind of stylize sound treatment panels or things like that. The problem with those is they're usually square or most likely rectangular. And so if you place them in the studio, depending on where your camera angles are, you could have those panels sticking out of people's heads and all of that. Kind of like this little horizontal line is sticking out of my head in this back plate. I could erase that with Gen AI. I could go into Luminar Neo and just remove it. So maybe we switch it out. Again, the lighting doesn't match with that one. What's going on, kids? What else do we have? Boom. There you go. This one's kind of a little ridiculous, as I had mentioned. And I don't know. We'll see where we wind up. But there you go. Lots of things there. This one also, a bit much. I'd probably bring that down. Look at this kind of light over my head. It's also just a little too much. All right. Marshall says, as for scientists, the person in this video is holding some Ghostbusters looking thing and is apparently measuring static in LVT and debunking a claim that it's low static. Oh, you mean from your Google search? That's the image that you're seeing related to that. Sounds like a thing. What are you going to do? Boom. All right. What else do we got, kids? What else do we want to talk about? Again, we don't have to go the whole hour, but if you have topics that you want to go over, that you want to talk about, great. If we don't have any more topics, then we don't have to get into that. I can tell you that for the job I'm going down to do, that it's going to be, again, mainly because of the autofocus system, it's going to be the FX30 A7C2 as the A and B cameras. Bringing more lenses this time. Learned from the last one. I should have had a couple of other focal lengths. So I'm bringing a little set of Zeiss Bodice Prime. So I'll have should probably bring the 25, the 40, and the 85. And then I have the Sigma lenses. I have the 18 to 50 f2.8, and I have the 24 to 70 no, 28 to 70 Sigma lens. That's a full frame. So I can use that on the A7C2 full frame. All the Bodice lenses are full frame. The only exception to that is this lens right here, which is the 18 to 50. That lens is part of their DC DN line, which is the crop version of that. And then they have the DG versions. This is Sigma. Those are the full frame. All right. Um, what else do we have? Anything else that you guys want to talk about? I'm happy to. I think this green screen is going to stay up for a little while as I start to dive into this stuff and figure more of it out. The next step really is to start to figure out what I want to use to create um, this, connection between real and virtual camera and parallax and stuff like that. Let's see what we got. Have you discussed doing line item charges for equipment rentals on shoots versus all inclusive production costs wrapped in? I'm dancing between these two camps weekly and curious about others' views. Ah, okay, Marshall. Um, I generally break it down in terms of equipment rentals to at least bigger categories. I don't get into every single item that I'm renting. So, as part of the job. So, I would say, for me, what I'm doing most of the time is I'm listing, let's say, camera kit, and then I'll say, X number of camera kits, which includes obviously camera body. It includes, lenses. And you could break down lenses. I mean, if you're going to be renting a $50,000 to $100,000 set of primes, then you might want to list that as a separate line item. But if it's just going to be for a standard corporate job, then I'm going to put a line item in there for camera kits. Number of days, usually days would be, 1 day, 2 days. Once you get to 3 days, that sort of sticks through 7 days. That's called a 3 day week. If you're renting your equipment for a week, sometimes a 1 week becomes a 1 week month, which means if the production goes past a week, but is less than a month, then that equipment charge will basically stay at a fixed amount. So let's say you're renting out your camera kit for $500 a day. It doesn't matter if that's for 3 days or it's for 6 days. It would still be $1,500 for that camera kit, right? That's just an example. And then what I'll do, Marshall, is I'll break down like grip and lighting. So and it's high level. So I'm not specking out individual specific things unless it's a very particular package, right? If I'm gonna say that we are providing as part of the production, there's going to be two RE Alexa 35s. Then I probably list that, and then what the lenses are. So, but it's never just the equipment is included. I always have a pre-production, production, and then I have a equipment section. There's usually a post-production section before that if I'm doing that. But your equipment and gear stuff should be in its own section of the proposal. That's also usually where I put storage. And I don't mean media cards for your cameras, I mean hard drives. So this particular job, I have two 4 terabyte drives. That's a line item that's at cost to client basically within a few dollars. So you jump on to B&H or Amazon or wherever you're going to buy your drives and you find out what the average cost of those drives are, and that's what you put inside of your budget sheet. Um Hey Brad, good to have you. Why is your head spinning with this carpet or vinyl? Just because you don't know which one to go with, Brandon? Don't send me a picture during the live stream. I see you're laughing over there. Look, I don't see a lot of advantages to going with the vinyl route, except for cost or lack thereof. So I don't know. David says, "How often?" Oh, you're welcome, Marshall. How often do you find yourself eating production time up trying to be too perfect with lighting? Whoo. Uh, I mean, look, this is. I'm just thinking about it here. Look, stupid me. Like actually checking to see. I'm making big mistakes here. Checking to see if Brandon sent an email, which I should not be doing. And even if it's here, it's not happening. All right. Um, I mean, it's sort of the bane of our existence is just, tweaking until not that kind of tweaking, tweaking things and lights and ratios and everything else until the absolute end. But in for me personally, the way I like to work is I really prefer to have a half or a full day to basically pre-light and set up. Um, when I'm going in and doing a project like the one I'm doing this weekend, where I'm wearing so many of the hats that need to be worn, where I'm effectively, producer director, I'm the DP, I'm the sound person, I may or may not be walking in slates. We'll just have to see how that goes. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. So I do everything I can, especially once talent shows up, to be as prepared as possible so then I can just focus on them. And that is a huge one. I mean, it's so important for you to be there for them. And it's really hard to do that when you're also pressing record on two cameras and on a sound devices, Mix Pre 6.2, and you are trying to monitor audio and you're trying to make sure that you're getting the shots that you need. But you can't really be present at all for your talent unless you have done a large degree of prep. And I'll do a lot of stuff before I leave to make sure that I'm not trying to deal with that on set or on location, especially with jobs like this. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going in on Friday and landing and then going straight to the location. And then hopefully, because I've done production in that space already, I sent out basically a bulleted list of things that ideally would be ready before I get there. Like I don't want to arrive and then have a room full of equipment everywhere. I don't mean my equipment. I just mean that space and all of the equipment that's there. It needs to be cleared out so that when I get there, it's a load in and set up as opposed to a get there, show up at the space, load all of the stuff out of the space, load my stuff in, and then start setting up for the videos. That could easily lose 1 to 2 hours. And we're not really going to have it because by the time I get to the location, it's about noon time because I'm traveling that day. And then I'm spending the next, we'll say, 4 to 5 hours setting up the space for the instructional videos. In this case, thankfully, I have been in the space before, but it's never the same 2 times in a row. There's always new things that come up and new problems to solve. And then by the end of that day, ready for the videos, but also a tabletop setup, which will have to be somewhere else in that same space. So it's about being prepared. And then when talent walks in on Saturday, then I can be present enough for that person to say, okay, I know my cameras are set up. I know my audio's set up. I know my lighting is pretty dialed in. I'm going to tweak it, obviously, based on the person walking into frame, their height, all of those types of things. And away we go. What time is it? Look at that. When we're talking here, it goes like that. The first half an hour felt like I went to the dentist. The second, and I don't mean that in any bad way. I just mean that when comments are coming in and questions are happening, then we fly through this stuff. And that's a good thing because we don't want to waste our time and we're trying to get stuff done and mission accomplished. Yes, Brandon, it's never perfect. Ever, ever perfect, especially with vinyl flooring. Yeah. All right. What else we got? One last question for the road. Don't forget to get your pictures in. Sunday, June 30th, last day for the challenge. Could win a dry cabinet, a rolling C stand case, or a couple of heavy duty light stands. Not bad. If you live in the United States and you win one of those prizes, it gets shipped directly to you by David can tell you. They just packed it all up. I gave them a name, an address, what the product was. B&H just sent it off to David. David received, turned it on, got frustrated by the app, but likes the light. Bob's your uncle. All right, kids, I'm going to end this one. I've got an episode of The Daily Drop to shoot right after this, and I also have my note from earlier on in this episode to go grab one more piece of grip kit. I'm right on the edge because I know how much these bags need to weigh, and the one that I want to put that in, and I took it out, is just slightly over. So it's one of those ones where it's like, is it 50 pounds, 52 pounds? If it's around 52, I might take the chance because they might just say, we'll let you go. But if it's in that 55 to 60 pound thing, you're not getting away with that here in the States anymore. Not usually. Okay. Thank you, as always, for being a part of the live stream. I am going to find the finish button here, which allows me to stop the stream. And everybody have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. If you are going to be submitting your photos for the June contest/challenge, just make sure you get them done and submitted by no later than Sunday, June 30th, end of day, along with your contact info and all that fun stuff, and send it to challenge@thec47.com. All the information's on the channel. Again, thank you everybody for coming to the live stream. If you're watching this on a replay, thank you for doing that. And I'll see everybody soon. Take care. Well, if I press the right button, take care. Here we go.